So once you're ready to submit your on-demand geofilter, you could then go to snapchat.com/geofilters and you'll be brought to this page. And if you scroll down, you'll see the two options, which are community and on-demand. You could then go ahead and select learn more on demand, and this will give you a overview of the steps of what you need to do is first design, then map, and then buy. So then we're going to go ahead and click create now, and then you will sign in using your Snapchat username and password, and then you'll select I am not a robot. On the next page, you'll see several different things. First is you'll see 3 submission tips for creating your geofilter, and then you'll see the option to choose your file, and then below that you'll see a link to download templates, and below that you'll see a link to see the submission guidelines for submitting your on-demand geofilter. So we're going to go ahead and click choose file, and then you're going to find your geofilter. You could then go ahead and give your geofilter a name, and you could also slide this slider to resize your geofilter and even click and drag if you want to move it around. But we're going to keep it the same, and then go to next, and this is where you will be able to select the time and date for your geofilter. Now keep in mind that your geofilter must be submitted the day before your event at the very latest. However, it's good to give yourself a padding of a few days in case your geofilter gets rejected or you want to make any last minute changes. Now let's say that for this geofilter it will be for this weekend. So we'll start the geofilter off on Saturday and end it on Sunday. So we'll click Saturday first and then we'll click Sunday. And you'll see that the 2 days are highlighted. And let's say that we'll start the geofilter at 8 p.m. and then 8 p.m. on the following day. So we'll have it run for 24 hours. Then we'll select next. And now if you look in the top right corner, you will see that it shows up the same dates and times that we selected on the previous screen. Also, something to keep in mind is that the geofilter times that you set are going to be set in the time zone that you're submitting from. For example, if you're submitting from Los Angeles, it's going to take on a Pacific Standard Time zone. And this is important if you happen to be submitting a geofilter for a different location that has a different time zone. And this is important for vacations and client work. For example, if you're having a vacation in a different time zone, but you want to submit a geofilter for that location before you get there, that geofilter is still going to have the same time zone that you submitted from, but you're physically going to be in a different location. So what you're going to have to do is manually adjust that time in order for it to correctly display at that location at the right time. So in order to have it show up in New York at 8 p.m., I would have to set it to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in order for it to show up in New York at 8 p.m. So next on the left is the search box where you could type in your location by name or address. So go ahead and find your location. And once you find your location, you could then zoom in and out using the plus and minus buttons at the bottom right corner. And you could then click and drag to pan across to find the correct location for your geofence. Now once you're ready to draw your geofence, you could just click the Draw Fence button at the bottom of your screen, and then just click to add your boundaries by clicking to add points at every change in direction. And you do this until it covers the entirety of the area you want to cover. And let's say you want to include another area that's not directly next to the first area you're covering. You can actually just create this thin line without paying for too much of this extra space. And what you can do is just cover that second area. And then go back to that first thin line and then come back around and complete that shape. So you have your, once it's completed, you'll have this green box, and this is going to be the area that your geofence your geofilter is going to show up in. And you can see this thin line where it's not covering up too much area, but it's also including this area, and we're ignoring paying for all this. And so that's a way you can add the side related areas, or areas that are a little bit further and you don't want to pay for the space in between. And what you can do is click and drag these points to adjust the size of them. And if you can tell in the top left corner, it shows the size of your geofence and the price for that size, as well as the time for your geofilter. And what you can do is just right click to delete these points if you want to edit your geofence, and you can also click and drag these points in order to resize them and reposition them. There's also this featured events, and you can see any featured events in this area for that time. However, this doesn't happen to have any, so we're going to exit out of that, and we could hit next. And then you'll be brought to the checkout page. And if for any reason you want to change anything before you check out, you can simply just click on any of the steps above and you'll be brought back to that step, and you could go forward by clicking on any of those steps as well. So you'll see the geofilter on the left, and then you'll see on the right the map of where your geofilter is going to be covering, and below that you'll see the start time, end time, and the dates as well. And below that you'll see the price for the geofilter. So on the left side you'll see the geofilter details, which will have the name of the geofilter and then the filter type. Again, there are two different types of on-demand geofilters. There's personal geofilters, which are for personal events, but they cannot include any branding or promotional messaging. And then there's also business geofilters, which can of course be promotional, but they also require a business name. And this business name, you would type it in here, and then you would of course then have this be shown on top of your geofilter to any users that swipe onto your geofilter. And this is just a way to let users know that your geofilter was a sponsored geofilter, and it's not one that is a personal event geofilter or one that Snapchat has created. So that's just a disclaimer, but it disappears shortly after the user swipes onto it, and it's not shown to anybody who views that snap. And below is the payment type, and you would just type in your credit card number, and then you can also save that credit card for future use, so you don't have to type it in every single time. And you would just type in your payment information, and then you would go ahead and select the I agree to the terms of service, privacy policy, and the on-demand geofilter terms and conditions. And then you would go ahead and submit it. However, I'm not going to do that right now, but I will show you the usage metrics after you submit your geofilter and after you use it, where you can find that. So after you hit submit and place your order, you will then be brought to a thank you page, and you'll also be sent an email saying that your geofilter is under review. The time frame for on-demand geofilter review is generally within 24 hours, and if your geofilter is accepted, then you should receive 4 more emails. First would be the email of your geofilter being approved. The second after that would be your geofilter being charged, and this is usually right before your event, so you won't be charged right away. And second would be your geofilter is live, and that is to let you know that your geofilter is now running. And the last one is your geofilter is completed, and that's just going to be a recap after your geofilter is done showing. If your geofilter happens to be rejected, you should then receive an email saying why it was rejected and how you can fix it. It is also possible that your geofilter can be accepted and then revoked later, and this has happened on a few people where they have submitted to an area that was having a lot of public sponsored geofilters, and then Snapchat decided that there were too many and revoked a few. However, this is very rare and usually only happens in large public events. Again, you will not be charged for your geofilter until it has already been reviewed and until the day before the event. You can cancel your order at any time in the Snapchat dashboard and get a full refund. You can even cancel your geofilter in the middle of your event, and you will only be charged for the time that you used. Now, the way you can cancel your orders or review the usage metrics on your geofilters is to go to geofilters.snapchat.com and then sign in using your Snapchat username and password. You could then go to the top right corner where your username is and then select My Geofilters. Scroll down to your geofilter that you want to look at, click on it, and you will be able to see the usage metrics of the completed geofilters. If you want to cancel your geofilter and it's not already been completed yet, you will also be able to see a trash can icon right here that will be able to cancel your geofilter. In the metrics below your geofilter's details, you will be able to see two sections of data. First is uses, and then the second is views. And uses are just saying how many times your geofilter was used on top of a snap. And then the views show how many times that snap with your geofilter was on was viewed. Now keep in mind that the results come in slowly and will lag behind several hours or days behind the real-time usage. So the final results for a geofilter often won't be completed for a few days after the geofilter has ended. And this is because individual snaps with your geofilter have still yet to be opened and viewed by other people. So now that you know how to submit your on-demand geofilter, in the next lesson we're going to learn what you can do to resubmit your geofilter if it happens to be rejected.